detect. Okay. Test the audio real quick. Right, am I coming through loud and clear? Loud and clear, loud and clear. Testing 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Cal, can you do me a favour and go on the stream and test if the audio is working correctly? Make sure the audio is coming through clear as day or something. I can't really tell. I'm just going to keep talking for a minute while you're doing this to make sure the audio is coming through loud and clear. This is a quick little test before we get the actual action commentary underway. Right, can you hear yourself as well? Yep, so just close your audio so everyone can hear you as well.
So testing, I guess.
Yep, that's fine. It's coming through loud and clear. There we go, we are good. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. I'm just making sure the usual, make sure audio checks all work correctly, that sort of thing. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to round number 20, I believe it is, from the US Grand Prix, which brings us to the second US Grand Prix of the RFL calendar, which brings us to COTA, Circuit of the Americas. And, well, what action we have ahead of us. Not many numbers for this week, obviously, because of obviously World Cup action going on elsewhere with some of the drivers. I believe we have people still arriving, but while we are waiting, I will introduce my co-com for the evening. Once again, welcome to the stream. It is Cal17F1. Say hello.
Hello, and yeah, welcome everyone, and yeah, hopefully we'll have a quality race, although we may not necessarily have the quantity that we would have expected otherwise.
Indeed. Just pulling up standings at the moment while we are waiting so we can have a look at championship standings from last week out in Mexico, I believe. Mexico, I think it was Mexico. No, it wasn't Mexico last week, it was someone else. Last week we were actually at Italy last week. I was thinking of a different league race that I'd already done myself. But obviously, Italy last week, the second race with Monza, as all the drivers are starting to ready up for the action up and coming. But only 3 rounds left after this. This is round number... Yeah, obviously, yeah. Only 3 rounds left after this. Baku, Belgium and Jeddah, obviously 3 sort of very different tracks to each other, really, in terms of how you extract speed. But how do we see these final sort of few races going?
Yeah, I mean, obviously last time out we had Angelo winning for the first time in this season. So yeah, can we get anyone else adding to that list of new winners, or is it going to be someone who's already won? And yeah, I think it's looking to be close in terms of the racing for the last few races. But yeah, and I think whilst the drivers' championships pretty much confirmed, I think, not mathematically, but just yeah, it's most likely that we know it's going to be Vapid to win unless something big happens. But the constructors is still very close, and yeah, we could maybe see some excitement towards last few races in that championship.
Indeed. And bringing up the point of the standings, obviously Vapid leading the standings on 205 points. His nearest rival Scott is a little bit of a distance off now, having had a few on and off races in the last few weeks. Obviously we know Angelo is not going to be here this week, so that could be potential chance for Tom Gorin with the low numbers this week, chance for the Alpine driver to gain ground on that front, and obviously Kirby a chance to get away from Checo just behind. But the more pressing one at the moment for the remaining quality of the season is going to be the constructors. At the moment, Williams do still lead the constructors with Vapid and So Fresh. But it is very much a close affair with Alpine and 236.5 points. That, as I say, that battle is going to go pretty much all the way down to the final few rounds of the season. I mean, what do you think the mentality is going to be for the drivers to actually going through? What will be going through the minds of both of those teams going into these final rounds?
Yeah, it's obviously going to be very important for the respective teams to want to get the title. And it's going to be a case of consistency from the two pairings. Obviously, we've got both the drivers from both the teams in this race this evening, so it is going to be a case of who is going to be able to beat the other one.
Very much true. As we're looking at XCR Senna, who is going to be our first one to set a lap of this circuit. One thing to note, but especially if you race on this circuit, I don't know if it's always been like this, but if you come onto that straight, you do get a very blinding flash of light from that sun as you go down that straight, which can sometimes make vision difficult to see. I don't know if that's something you've ever picked up on, Cal, from racing around here.
It's not something I remember, but
Oh,
yeah, maybe
spin for Senna.
it is something that's affecting some of the drivers possibly. So yeah, I personally can't really comment too much on that, but yeah, we'll wait to see if that really affects anyone.
Indeed. We will get a lap on board with someone in a minute, but I think the first lap on the board is going to be set by XCR Button, who is currently the first lap behind. I believe his teammate, oh, why is that doing that? Go back to where we were. Thank you. Don't know why that does that in quali. It shows you all the AI drivers and not everyone else. Obviously, no people can join quali. But obviously, this track is a very difficult one to manage in terms of penalties. It's very easy to accumulate warnings on a track like this. How do you reckon people are going to approach it as XCR Senna doesn't go for a spin once again?
Yeah, it is, as you say, definitely something to look out for in maybe particularly the first sector, and then possibly towards the last couple of corners as well. But yeah, I think on drivers' first laps, they're gonna take it maybe a little bit easier on their first runs through the circuit, but then as we get later onto the session, we'll be seeing the drivers pushing a lot more and possibly seeing them try and see how far they can push to the limits, really.
Indeed. As we're just watching it, see our button in the background just setting himself up. Obviously, we've seen Shut Middle now join as well, so we have 9 drivers, almost double figures. I believe someone else is joining as well. I believe JD and the Ferrari will be joining us later on as well. Who knows on that front? But it will be a button to set the first lap of the actual session, so let's just see what he does as he comes round the final corner. Will be interesting to see. It's going to be a 1:35.6. I believe that probably will be beaten by someone. Thinking someone like Tom Goring, not Tom Goring, he's currently on, I believe it's going to be Kirby, it's going to be next to come round. He's invalidated though, so we won't see him improving on that. So we'll go on board with Scott, I believe, who's coming around and is on a valid lap. So the Haas driver, who is mostly out of this at this point, as Vapid has crashed.
Oh, where's that happened?
That is, oh, final corner.
Final corner.
If you look what his car is.
Yeah, he's what? Oh, has he maybe lost on a curb? That is.
He's lost it? Yeah, that must be the final corner on the outside. He's lost it on as you go on the straight. That's a rare mistake for Vapid. I mean, he doesn't make many mistakes. He's been very consistent this season in terms of finishing, but that's a big moment. He will be. Obviously, it's not many numbers as Tom Goring sits fast lap the Grand Prix, 1:34.144, all of the 4s and all of the 3s in there. But be interested to note how that he's gonna have work to do now as he actually head into the main race itself.
Yeah, I'll have to say pretty surprised that that's happened. Yeah, he's obviously just been pushing. Do you know if he was starting a lap or finishing a lap?
I think it may have been finishing because he was already on a lap, or it was just maybe at the beginning of an out lap, or the end of an out lap rather. But not sure. But it's going to be up to his teammate to get as high up the grid as possible and try and rescue something early on for the team. But that's going to be, even with low numbers, it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it's obviously it's given advantage to the Alpine team in terms of the qualifying position, which is obviously going to help towards the
Oh,
sprint
that's a
race
spin
and
from So Fresh.
then the main race as well.
Yep, notice he spun. That's one thing I'm noticing as well. The drivers are. I've noticed it was saying the curbs around here are not forgiving in certain places.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how many places Verstappen's going to be able to make up in the sprint race indeed before the main race starts.
Yep. We're on board with Shot Metal. If you want to take us through a lap on board through the Circuit of Americas.
Okay, so yeah, heading into turn one in fourth gear, which is probably a higher gear than I'd have taken there. Yeah, obviously going for that uphill braking going, and now it's the fast left, right, and left-hand corners, which seem to continue on forever really, and getting pretty close to the track limits there. But yeah, obviously doing it well through there, and now up the hill and then over the crest and towards the end of the first sector, I believe, and now down into the hairpin as well, with a very wide entry point, which could potentially see some overtakes in the sprint race and the main race as well. But yeah, I now do see your point with the sun glare as we go on board. That is a little bit of a distraction every down the back straight, but now we go towards the next section of corners. A pretty tight section of corners, so it's really going to be a case of how much is the Alfa Romeo Shot Metal going to be able to open up each of the corners and getting out a good exit from it. And now it's the quadruple apex corner, I believe it is. On the
reverse circuit turn 8, I believe.
Yeah. And now it's just 2 more corners to go in this lap. Stays within the track limits in the penultimate corner, and now it's just the final corner to go in this lap. He's going to be opening the DRS and crossing the line, and it's P3 with a 1:34.3.
I believe there's probably some time to find for Shot Metal there, but obviously we've not seen him for a few races, so it'll be interesting to see how he does get on.
Yeah, he's obviously slotted in P3 for the moment and ahead of his teammate as well. So yeah, he's going to be possibly trying to improve later on in the session.
Sora is currently not on a lap time at the moment. His teammate Senna has invalidated, so not really much action to really go about at the moment. So obvious, a bit of sort of real life history for this Circuit of the Americas, I believe, has been in the calendar since about 2012, if I'm correct, and well, seen some interesting races over the years. We're talking real life, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think the one of the moments that sticks out for me is it's a sort of moment that's known as the sort of gust of wind moment from Nico Rosberg, when he went off track towards the third to last corner, and that gave Lewis Hamilton the lead of the race and ultimately the title as well.
Indeed. I believe this was also the time when for the battle. Oh, it's Xavier Senna has now retired as well, so I think he's had an incident in the first sector. So that's unfortunate for him. Looks like it's just past the S's. But I believe also real life Grand Prix, we also have the battle between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton 2012, if I'm correct, the first year the Grand Prix was actually held.
Yeah, that one was also pretty significant as well, and I believe it was Lewis Hamilton who went on to win that race, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're correct on that one, even though the Red Bull car was the dominant car that year.
Yeah, that is true. Obviously, one of the years where Sebastian Vettel won his 4 titles. So yeah.
Indeed, correct on that front. Sora finally, I think, might be able to get a banker lap on the board. He's obviously not set a representative lap time yet. I believe this will be his 3rd lap on these tyres. I think he's invalidated on the first 2, so let's see where he puts himself. A 33.5, not a bad banker. Why is this person joined? Who are you?
He is a reserve, I believe. So I think
Okay.
he's gonna add to the numbers of drivers for tonight's proceedings.
Okay then, did not know that. Fair enough. As Tom Gorin is going to be the next one to come through in a lap. Obviously, one of the two teams fighting for the constructors. He's backing off into the pit lane. Must not be happy with these laps, so he's not going to be going to sit in a lap. Soulfresh, I believe, is going to be your next car, but he's validated on the formation lap. Watching is boring. Yes, Vapid. That's understandable. Also, Finn's in the chat as well. I know you're lurking about in the chat somewhere as well. Evening to you, sir. From the, I believe he's not here this week for probably his own reasons, but good to see you in the chat there as well, sir. But yeah, Vapid saying watching is boring. As I say, this track is already coming up with some of the curbs, as I say, biting back at some of the drivers. It's really just coming to the point where at some points you will find where the drivers will struggle with certain corners around here.
Yeah, obviously,
Knowing.
yeah, the curbs can very much cause the car to get unsettled, really, and yeah, just one sort of wrong angle over the corner can just spin the car around, and yeah.
I think the curb more than kinda killed you, Vapid. I think that was kind of a case in point of you were kind of just... Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting it. The curb did actually get you properly. Oh, so fresh and validated. The slightest of inches over the curbs there by the looks of it. Looks like we have, as I say, I believe Scott is on and out. So, as I believe Shot Metal has just started on a lap himself. But obviously at the moment, with I believe about 5 minutes left of the session, Sora is currently on top. I mean, I'd expect Sora to be on top knowing the fact that he is a very quick driver.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm going in P2. Not too far behind. Carry on.
Yeah, obviously, I was just going to say he's got around about a 5 or 6 tenth gap to Tom Gorin in second, so yeah. It remains to see if anyone's going to be able to match that time.
Shot Metal is currently on another lap himself, and that's going to be a crucial thing for the Alpha Male driver to see how he actually does this. There's going to be there's going to be a car outside the track. No distraction there. I believe that was his teammate, who I believe has potentially just backed off there, not giving his teammate any kind of slipstream, which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, you'd probably expect maybe a little. Well, yeah, you'd expect a bit of a tow at least, but yeah, yeah, maybe just not fancying the coordination there at the Alpha Romeo team.
Yep, that was a Williams at the side of the track there that will almost rejoin dangerously. There's a little bit of a wiggle as they head through the reverse turn 8 or the reverse of Turkey as he's backed off, so he must not be happy with the lap.
Yeah, he'll have enough time to put on a fresh set of tyres and go for another run. So yeah, I suspect we'll have most of the drivers who are in the pits coming out fairly soon for the last runs, and yeah, hopefully we'll see an exciting finale to this session.
So 10 drivers now in this session, SLR Mash. This is going to be interesting to see how he gets on, because obviously a complete unknown quantity in terms of how quick. Obviously, he's set a purple sector 1 at the moment. Sometimes difficult to read into how much these purple sectors really do matter, because sometimes the game can lie to you in past games. But how do you reckon the Alpha Tauri driver is going to get on?
Yeah, obviously, not a driver I've witnessed before, so yeah, I don't really know if I'm honest. So yeah, it will be interesting to see just whereabouts he's gonna slot into the field.
as he's coming around to finish on his first lap in the session, probably his only lap in the session as well, unless he has time to go for time and fuel to go for a second lap. But we'll have to do a cool down on the ERS, because we obviously know ERS can only really do one full lap, and then you really don't have much ERS left over. But what's it going to be? A 34.4.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah,
Oh,
obviously
ooh,
slotting in
fresh once again.
around about the middle of the pack. So yeah, um,
So fresh, as I say, don't know what you're doing there, but trying to get yourself going again. On board with Kirby, someone we haven't seen in this session yet. Obviously, another part of the Alpine team fighting for the Constructors' Championship, and it looks like there's a little bit of struggle for So Fresh at the moment, and this is not looking that good for Williams, because obviously Vapid crashed out before he could even set a lap time, and looks like So Fresh is struggling to get a lap on the board.
yeah, obviously there aren't any points handed out in qualifying, but it does indeed very much help if you are towards the front of the grids. And yeah, um, and obviously it's being towards the front gives you the best chance of getting those 3 points for winning the sprint race. And yeah, obviously that'll give you pole position for the main race as well.
Indeed. As Kirby comes around to finish his lap, what is it going to be? He's currently in a 35.4. He improves to a 34.6, but still remains in P6. So a good improvement there from him. As Tom Gorian, I believe, is on a lap, but he has invalidated, but does have time to go again, as long as he has saved his fuel. As Sora, I believe, will be coming out to go for a lap, as he's currently with 50 seconds or so left on the clock in this qualifying session. This is where the track grip will be at its best, and it will be interesting to see if anyone can challenge, as it looks like, I believe So Fresh has... He's retired on track? I'm not sure. I see a Williams there that's causing yellow flags in the second sector there.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's retired on track for some
I
reason.
think yeah the card's
Not sure
pulled
on that
out
one.
of the way, so yeah, thankfully I don't think it'll be blocking anybody's laps. So yeah, these will pretty much all be the final laps now.
Hang on one second, just Karen chatting. I just need to get rid of something in the chat. Thank you. No spamming, no spammers in this chat, please. Thank you. Okay, with that out of the way, Sora is on his lap now, obviously looking to improve on his 33.5. I wonder if he is indeed going to be able to improve that. The only person that's near him at the moment that can improve it is either going to be Tom Gorian or Shot Medal, because SLR Mash has finished. He is the AlphaTauri driver, only doing the one lap in the session. But it will be Sora who will have the best track grip of any car at the moment, as Kirby is now done from the session as well. He's retired in the pit lane as well. What is it going to be, Sora, in the middle sector? Is there going to be improvements for him? He is another almost 4 tenths up on his own time. So looking at maybe if he can do it low 33s, maybe even high 32s, if he can gain enough time going into the final sector. So Tom Gorian is finished. He's not improved on his time. So what can Sora do as he now heads to the final corner? The Mercedes driver looking to improve even further on his time and put it further and further away. He will be the last to cross the finish line. What is it going to be? Round at the final corner, we probably won't know. It's going to be a 32. I think I saw a 32 there.
Yeah, and Shot Medal slotted himself onto the front row of the grid for the sprint race as well. And yeah, interesting qualifying session there.
32.9 from Sora. That is a lap time and a half there. That's a statement of intent there from the Mercedes driver. So the front row, so the grid, the qualifying is over, and we now have the results for the 5-lap sprint race. It's Sora and Shot Medal on the front row, with Tom Gordon and Scott following in behind third and fourth. SLR Mash on his debut in the league, fifth, alongside Kirby in the Alpine. Button in 7th, with XCR Senna, the father and son team 7th and 8th. Senna unable to set a lap time, with So Fresh and Vapid, the two Williams, at the back of the grid, and have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that is very much the case, and yeah, it's going to be a question of how quickly can they work through it, and if they can do it at all. So yeah, it's going to be something to look out for as we head towards the 5-lap sprint.
Be interesting to see, obviously, not really knowing anything about the weather. It does look a little bit cloudier, but it does still look dry, so probably is going to be dry compound tyres. Obviously, interesting to know if anyone has had the glitch of using all the tyres, so they end up with absolutely using the mediums like what has happened before. Nope, everyone is in the soft compound tyres. Obviously, the people to look out for in this race is going to be Vapid from the back, because he's definitely going to be on a charge with only 5 laps and only a small amount of points on the line here in this initial session. It's going to be important for him to gain as many places as possible initially, and it's going to be important for Tom Gorian and Kirby to get themselves as far away as possible, because Kirby is only a few positions ahead of the first of the two Williams. But wonder if you could play a buffer role here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, obviously we've got a lot of corners with sort of wide entrances to them, so that could possibly allow for a lot of overtaking here. And yeah, obviously we've got the back straight as well as the main straight with DRS to use as well.
Yeah, I believe only the two DRS zones on this track, the main straight and the start finish straight and the back straight, I believe, are the only two that have DRS on this particular track. Be interesting to see how many people take advantage of that. Obviously, knowing the fact that you really don't want to be making overtakes into certain corners, say the corner just before the DRS, because although I'm wondering if anyone will try and play that tactic of let someone go in front just before that. I wonder, like to do at Monza for the final corner.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, definitely will be something to look out for. At least, and yeah.
Fair enough. As I say, still waiting for, as I say, the drivers will. We will be heading into the action sometime shortly. But while we are waiting, obviously, you've raced a few times here yourself. Any sort of memories that stand out for you from this track?
Okay. Let's think. Um, my
Spot here.
my mind is going a little bit blank here. I'm not gonna lie. Well, yeah, I remember racing at this track earlier on in this game cycle. But yeah, apart from that, it was my mind just completely going
It's
blank
not.
again.
Hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, there's the first sector is you're not gonna see too much side-by-side action unless someone has maybe continued on a battle from the first corner. But yeah, there's obviously we've got the two straights which should hopefully see a lot of action here in this race. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, I think we're close to almost starting the sprint race here.
Indeed, the countdown timer is indeed on. I wonder if that's maybe pressed early. Who knows? We will find out later on in tickets at some point. I reckon on that front. But we will have the sprint race underway in just over 5 seconds time, so we will head down to the action on the grid. Let's see how this goes. Obviously, no formation lap on this one, so let's just see how the action all goes up. So the 5 red lights are going to be coming on, and it's a little bit of a hold on the lights, but is it a good start from Sora? I'm not entirely sure if he has got a decent start. Looks like there's been it's almost 3 wide action going in towards turn 1. What a start from Scott there. He tries to go up the inside, however does still lose 2 positions there. I think side by side with SLR Mash and Tom Gorian, the new Alpha Tauri driver, giving the Alpine driver a bit of a headache here with some of the further action going on a little bit further back. Scott's made a bit of a mistake there in the Haas, and that's going to allow the Alpha Tauri round to the outside, and that's a good move around the outside for the Alpha Tauri driver.
Yeah, very much so, and he's been able to make the move as well. And yeah, the AlphaTauri up into P3 of SLR Mash, and yeah, yeah, very good move indeed. As it's side by side between Vapid and Button here as they come out of the hairpin corner.
Looking to make. It's like Vapid's trying to make the move stick here. He has to clear as many cars as possible, and This is probably not what he needs to be held up at the moment, and with obviously the pace difference.
We've
However,
got
the
side to side for the lead, yeah.
Yep, Sora's lost the position to Shot Metal here. Those two, it was a little bit of squeezing there from Shot Metal. He does not want to give any more space than he really requires to. However, still the inside for Sora, and Sora's back up the inside.
Yeah, and Scott's
but what a
been able
cutback
to retake P3 from Mash as well, so the Haas back up into P3 right now.
Alpha Tauri driver runs a little bit wide. That's going to allow Tom a chance up the inside. Looks like Vapid's finally got the job done on Button just a bit further back.
Yeah, definitely.
The Alpha, as I say, the Alpha Tauri driver is definitely getting himself involved very early on in this. He's going to go for the move once again down towards turn number 1. Does Tom Gorian want to make it 3 wide? No, he does not, but it's up the inside. The outside line is kind of your favoured one for this corner. I think there was a little, I wonder if he was squeezed out a little bit there, and Tom Gorian is up to P4 from that as well, and Tom Gorian now trying to make the move on the Alpha Tauri driver, who has fell out of DRS, and that's kind of important around here to have DRS when it does eventually become active on lap number 3, because much like Monza, you really want to have be in the DRS train to make sure you gain the most amount of time.
Yeah, very much so, and yes, Scott just running wide, unfortunately losing position for him to Tom, who made use of the switchback when the Alpha Tauri of Mash went up his inside. So yeah, it looks like those three could potentially be battling further on into this race.
To note as well, I think Scott's made a little bit of an error, but Shot Medal has fell back out of a second from Sora, so he had one chance to get past. He was not able to make anything stick, and he's now falling into the clutches of SLR, the new Alpha Tauri driver.
Yeah, very, very interesting indeed, and yeah, it's a little bit of a DRS train once it does become active on the next lap as well. So Vapid just sitting at the back of that, and can he make use of it as well?
Sora is now stretching his legs at the front. It's a 34.9 for the Mercedes driver. He is looking to run away, and Kirby is doing a great job here of being a buffer. However, I believe Vapid is trying to get as close as possible, and no, he doesn't seem to get close enough, and this is not ideal for Vapid at the moment. He's only really moved up 3 positions.
Yeah, and obviously it's Alpine versus Williams on track as well as in the constructors as well, so it's going to be important for both these drivers to try and defend or indeed make the move as well. And that is a retirement.
That's it, that's Button. I think he's lost it in the S's.
Yeah.
And I think his son is spun in the S's as well.
Yeah, very unfortunate for them, but they do have the main race itself to try and make up for it, as well as Vapid is right behind Kirby.
Vapid is pretty much right. Yes, he is. There goes Button from the session. He's had enough for the moment. Let's see if it's going to be Kirby. I don't think it's going to be able to do much here. Can he come back? Is he going to go back up the inside here potentially? Nope, not going to happen for Kirby. And I mean, he's done a good job there of holding up Vapid for as long as he possibly could, but the Williams just had more pace there.
Yeah, very much true, and there's a little bit of a gap between.
Oh, and there's XCR Senna gone now.
Yeah, there's Vapid's lost the DRS range up to Scott ahead, as he gets a little bit out of shape going into the penultimate corner, but he just about holds the car, and yeah, he's just about outside the DRS range at this moment in time.
So coming off this battle just for a second, we'll go back to the battle currently for what is P2, because Shot Medal now, he's dropped off a fair bit. I wonder if there's maybe been some damage potentially.
We'll have to try and have a look at his car. That's the case.
Only remaining Alfa Romeo driver in this race. It doesn't look like it's any damage.
No.
Unless it's not visual.
Maybe it's, if there is damage, maybe it's his bodywork or something.
Well, I mean, SLR Mash doesn't have much ERS to really play with at the moment. Shot Medal and slightly more ERS than what the Alpha Tauri driver is. And now it is just a DRS train for what is going to be the final 2 laps of this Grand Prix between all of these drivers here. Vapid, it's going to be a struggle for Vapid to get himself back into this train, and potentially, unless if these guys don't fight.
Yeah, he's obviously 1.5 seconds behind, and it's not going to be easy to get back in within that 1 second. So yeah, I think potentially it could just be a sixth place on the grid for the Williams driver of Vapid.
The only plus point for Vapid and Williams is that Alpine are not going to get any points out of this sprint race either, from the looks of it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's only the top three are getting points in this particular sprint race. So yeah.
Oh. It's close, half a second between Shot Metal and Mash. The AlphaTauri driver seeing how close he can get. Shot Metal's going to have to spend a lot of time looking in his rear view mirrors, or the mirror that is in the game that you can have as well. And you can see that AlphaTauri still as close as it's ever going to be. Notice that people have managed so far to keep themselves in check with penalties. Obviously that will be a lot more of a difficult story in the main race itself. We do also have Scott as well, who's trying to keep himself in check with Tom Gorian, and Tom Gorian has almost fell out of DRS. He's just holding on. No, he's not. So he's going to be in trouble here, I think, from Scott there. But I think I know he's going to be in more trouble even than him is Mash. Well, not Mash, but Metal, because Shot Metal is going to have to he's going to have to use a lot of the battery here, as Mash, but he doesn't have much battery to really use himself here. He's going to pretty much deplete the entire battery. The lights will be flashing on both of these cars. I think he's going to run out before he gets to the corner, and he's going to have just enough speed as Shot Metal to try and keep himself ahead.
Yeah, and Scott's having a look up the inside of Tom Gorian there, but he just wasn't quite close enough and had to eventually back out of the move before the corner there.
Meanwhile, the sprint race here, the sprint race is going to be won by Sora up at the front. Did have a little bit of a scare early on with Shot Metal with his one chance that he had, but he didn't manage to finish the move off. So it is going to be job done for Sora. He is going to take the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, the fastest lap point, and he's going to win, getting the 3 points from the sprint race. Metal and Shot Metal just survives from Mash, and it's going to be P4 and P5 for Scott, with Vapid in 6th. Not the best race from him, with Kirby in 7th. And then it will be So Fresh to come through and take the final place, or the final finishers for the sprint race.
Yeah, indeed, and yeah, very, very close at the end there, but yeah, it's yeah, obviously Sora who's going to be on pole position for the main race.
Yep, TMS Sora is the winner of the five lapper sprint race. It'll be interesting to see how. We've seen Sora sometimes struggle to hold his nerve in the main races with bad starts, but he has recently been finding a lot of consistency to go along with his pace, so it is going to be very interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously Shot Metal, will be interesting to see how he gets on a longer race distance of, I believe it is 28 laps around this circuit that the drivers will be tackling in the 50% race distance. And obviously we had, I believe it was Scott who got the final point for P3. We'll see in a second. Yes, it was. Nope, that was Mash that got a final point. Not Scott. Scott was in 4th place. 5th place rather. So your results from the 5 lap sprint race, and will be the setter for the main grid itself. It is TMS Sora alongside Shot Metal in the front row. 1st and 2nd remaining exactly where they were. Solar Mash and Tom Gorian will be on row number 2 with Scott alongside Vapid, who moved up from 10th place up to P6. Not ideal, but a few positions still gained nonetheless for the Williams driver. P7 and P8 is going to be the 2 Americans of Kirby and So Fresh in the Alpine, and the other Williams will be interesting to see how those two get on. Then obviously the 2 DNS were the father and son team of Senna and Button. What do you reckon we're going to see in the main race itself then?
Yeah, it's obviously it's going to be close between the front runners. I think it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be close between the first few, and yeah, hopefully we do get a lot of action to entertain us for the race.
Indeed. Obviously, I believe we are missing one driver at the moment. Hopefully they will get back into the lobby, but now the grid gets reset and we have the main feature race to arrive. But while we're waiting for all of that, from the races, obviously you've been in the commentary box with me for about half of the season, maybe about half the season now for me. what should be your favourite race so far that you've commentated on?
Favorite race? Yeah, that is a tricky one. We've had some pretty good races. Okay, let's try and well, obviously,
Putting you in the spot a little bit here.
yeah, I think well, last time out, um, at Monza, Angelo getting his victory at his home race, that was a pretty standout moment, I'd say so far. But yeah, there's obviously um races previous which have been pretty close as well. But yeah, I think if I was to pick one moment, it would probably be that. I don't know if there's any recency bias into that or not, but yeah, I think that's probably what I'd say as to what the standout moment is so far.
It's a good choice, that one. Obviously, going into that race, I spoke to Angelo sometime in the lead up to that race, and he said that he never thought he'd win a race this season, and I think I brought it up in commentary and saying last week, saying, well, he's won a race now, because, well, I don't think he actually expected it, and obviously there was some technical issues last week, so I don't know if you would have heard him on the stream last week. We did bring him on and have him say a few words winning at his home race, but it was still amazing just not hearing the sort of the Swiss living Italian driver in an Italian car. I mean, just a thing of itself. Obviously, it's only a video game, but it's just a feeling, and it's still a good feeling, I suppose, for
Yeah,
the winning driver there.
yeah. Obviously, it was obviously it was a very good feeling for him last week out. So yeah, I think even just results when you're not expecting them as well. If we if we go back to the Singapore race, yeah, I got a podium that race and I wasn't expecting it at all, and yeah, that was
I mean, there was
just
like a lot of craziness in that race, and
yeah,
obviously we've seen that. I believe when you were on it, you had the capabilities of surprising people,
yeah,
as a driver.
yeah, exactly, and it also just proves you never know what can happen in a race really, and yeah, if you don't give up, you never know what sort of good result you might get.
Indeed, as I say, as they say, I believe it's Crofty who actually says it. Anything can happen in F1, and it normally does. I think I'm correct on that saying.
Yeah, I think that's also it might be a thing Murray Walker said as well. So yeah, it's obviously a phrase that's gone that's gone from a long time ago, and yeah, it obviously sticks to this day.
Indeed, obviously, some very famous F1 commentators we've had sort of real life over the years. Obviously, Murray Walker, I believe, no longer with us. Um, Racing sort of ahead in the real life, one lap ahead of all of us, really.
Yeah, there's
I
obviously
believe that.
like a lot of the moments from like the F1 moments from before I was born was it's all moments that Murray Walker was commentating on. So yeah, yeah, obviously it's obviously part of the history, and yeah, I think yeah, I had one F1 season alive where he was still commentating. So yeah, I suppose yeah, it's just a thing you think of like historic
I
F1,
mean, Murray
and
Walker
you
in
think of
F1.
Murray Walker. Yeah.
It's two. Yeah, it's him and I believe also James Hunt as well. For a few years as well. After he retired, he went into the commentary box and was alongside, I believe.
Yeah, he was alongside for what was a number of years, I think, and yeah, obviously then towards the end of Murray Walker's commentating career, there was Martin Brundle alongside him, who obviously still commentates to this day. So yeah,
It's just it's the sort of the charm. I think it depends on how people look at it now, but obviously, to old or new fans. But do you feel that some of the charm from F1 is actually gone in terms of what made it special, or do you reckon there's some things that have been replaced that are better now?
Um, I think I think nowadays it's a lot more sort of. I think I'm just trying to
Corporate? Would that be the word?
I'm just trying to think
Not
how the
sure on
best
that
way
one.
to say this is, but I think nowadays it's more sort of dramatized, if that makes sense. I suppose
I mean, to be
the
honest, Drive to
yeah,
Survive kind of did
that
a
was a
little bit with that
that was a big
to
part of it, but
sort of. It kind of gave F people a sort of a false realization
yeah,
of what F1 actually is.
but yeah, it's also still got a massive part of the history still remains, and yeah, obviously a lot of the teams are still the same. Obviously Ferrari being the biggest one.
I, I
Um,
believe Ferrari I think Ferrari's been around since pretty much the beginning of
yeah,
F1 now, 1950.
yeah, I think that is
Oh, hang on.
pretty much all the seasons. So
Something. The stream was doing that really staticky noise, so I was
ah,
just
I think I
fixing
know
that.
the one you mean. Yeah,
Right, so hopefully that's sorted that issue. I think it has. Anyway, sort of carrying on with the conversation we were having. The I don't know if I agree with Netflix getting involved with that because just in opinions, it's just not something I found to be the best really for the image of the sport. I don't know if
yeah.
you're a bit different on that view, but yeah, that's just my
I
thoughts.
think I think the bringing in more people has also done a lot of good, but I think yeah, the sort of way they sort of portrayed things could have been done a little bit better, if that makes sense. But maybe also maybe the way they portrayed things brought in more people. So I suppose there's always two sides to it, really.
As I say, you're indeed correct on that front. It's an interesting one, obviously, for anyone in the chat as well. Obviously, what you think on that front as well. I'll leave that in the chat if anyone who is indeed watching can have a thought and a mull over that themselves. But as I say, we are getting ready for the action. We've managed to ward our way through enough empty space, and we will be getting the action underway. As we're about to get the formation lap. I wonder if the people. I did have the tire strategies on screen at the beginning of the session, or the beginning of the beginning there. So I wonder if they have stayed the same. Let's have a quick old look. Oh,
Oh, that's a Mercedes
that's
into the wall.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's Sora. I've just been on board. I think he was trying to warm his tires up.
Yeah.
That's not gone entirely to plan for Sora. I mean, that's not how you warm tires. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what type of tire everyone's on, we've got
It
the
looks like
front
hard
two
three.
and
It's
and
three people
Tom.
on hards, the
Yeah.
rest on mediums.
So
So
that could be interesting.
top two have opted for the hard compound tires, Sora and Sharp Metal. Mash on the mediums. Tom Gorin's on the hards as well. That's the last of the hard runners. Then we have Scott, who's on the mediums. Vapid's opted for the mediums. Kirby's opted for the mediums. So Fresh and Senna are also all on the medium compound tires as well. But it's going to be, and the hard tires are going to take a little bit to heat up in terms of temperature. Sorry about that. So, how do you reckon the drivers on the hard tires are going to approach that? Because obviously the mediums will come up to temperature a little bit quicker than what the other drivers in the mediums will.
Yeah, I think the hard tire runners, they're probably could be playing a bit more of a long game in terms of they just need to try and hold position as much as possible, and then the tires will sort of come into play later on in the stint compared to the medium and tire runners who their tires are gonna obviously drop off a lot earlier. However, they're going to get sort of the better grip in the first few laps. So it's going to be interesting to see if the medium tyre runners can take advantage of their higher amount of grip at the start. And yeah, there's obviously the hard tyre can be a good tyre to start on, as well as you get that sort of clean air as the drivers around you on mediums come into the pits. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be an exciting one to watch.
As the drivers are starting to form up, we will have the lights on very shortly. Hopefully the game will decide to give me a decent camera angle for once, but I've not really had that for the last few weeks. So as the final drivers are indeed in the grid, everyone has made it into their box successful this time. As the lights are indeed on, 5 red lights are on, and they're going to hold for a little bit, but it's not much of a hold from the lights. Let's see if Shot Metal can get a better start. It looks like it's not been a good start for COTA, as Shot Metal it looks like Mash is around the outside, but he's going to be stuck around the outside. There's contact between the two, between Shot Metal and COTA. Shot Metal side by side with the Mercedes drivers. They go side by side into the S. It's not someone you really want to go side by side into, and it looks like Shot Metal has got the move done up the inside.
Yeah, and just a little bit further back, Kirby has lost out to So Fresh in the Williams as they nearly go side by side. But yeah, Kirby's going to be wanting to try. Yep,
he's trying to go side by side once again, but he's not managed to get it back. Looking at Tom Gorian as well, looks like Tom Gorian has not got a decent start either. Obviously the hard tyre is not really getting up to temperature for him early on. It looks like Vapid has managed to clear him and is up to P4.
Yeah, it's been a good start from him, yeah. And yeah, it's pretty much going to be nose to tail throughout the field on this first lap.
Yep, it's Scott meanwhile as well is trying to have a look at Tom Gorian just a little bit further back. It looks like Shot Metal. Yep. Shot Metal's been re-overtaken by
P7 as Kirby takes P7 back away from So Fresh.
Yep, looks like Kirby already, he dropped out of a second there briefly, but has managed to get it back. Going back to the battle at the front, looks like the other Williams is trying to get past SLR Mash and the Alpha Tauri. The Alpha Tauri driver is closer though. It looks like Shot Metal.
That's a spin.
Is that a spin for Vapid?
Yeah. He's spun right around there. He's avoided the wall, but that is not going to be good for the Williams driver of Vapid.
Not looking like he's having the luck so far, but looking at it as well, it looks like that Shot Metal is once again struggling to keep himself within the DRS range of COTA. COTA is already starting to maybe show the muscle a little bit more than what Shot Metal is, and Shot Metal doesn't seem to have response at the moment for him.
Yeah, and it looks like the Alfa Romeo of Shot Metal is going to have to try and look more behind him than in front, because he's got the Alpha Tauri of Mash, who's on the medium tyres as well, very close behind as well. So it's going to be interesting to see whether anything comes to fruition in that battle.
Indeed. It looks like that's the closest battle at the moment, as Shot Metal is going to have to be looking in his rear view mirrors. Let's see if looks like he does get a little bit of a better exit coming off this, but that Alpha Tauri does look like it has a little bit more straight line speed. Look at the straight line speed gaining on the side of that car. He's not quite got alongside yet. The Alpha Tauri driver he's sending the warning signals there to Shot Metal, saying, I'm here, if you make a mistake, this position is mine.
Yeah, he's obviously putting on the pressure in these opening laps, and it's gonna remain to see whether the Alfa Romeo driver of Shot Metal can indeed sustain that pressure.
Indeed. Meanwhile as well, Tom Gorian is also struggling on his tyres, but I think it's the hard tyres have not yet come up to temperature, but it looks like COTA has dealt with it better than what Shot Metal has. And Scott has got Kirby for company, so Scott at the moment in P5 has got Alpine's either end of him, with Tom Gorian in P4 and then Kirby in P6.
Yeah, that is very true, and the Haas driver of Scott just having a little look up the inside, letting Tom know that he is there, but yeah, not quite close enough to make a move as of yet. Indeed.
As it looks at SLR, they're really, maybe Shot Metal, he's got initial pace in the first lap, and then he's just falling away after that. He's just struggling to keep hold of the gap, and I mean, it looks like Mash does have more pace than him, and obviously we didn't get enough laps in the sprint race to show what the Alpha Tauri driver could actually do, but it's looking like if he can get the ground gain, now he's going to be in real trouble here, Shot Metal. He's not using the ERS here. I think he knows exactly what's coming here.
It's going to be
He's going to let the Alpha...
And Scott makes the overtake on Tom.
And meanwhile, still on board with the battle for P2. Looks like Mash has got the move done. And it looks like Scott has indeed got past Tom Gorian. Obviously we know Tom Gorian's going to be longer on those tyres than what Scott will be, obviously, by a few laps. I believe it is going to be mediums to hards for the medium runners. Certain tires at least for the medium runners, and the hard tires will probably be the mediums. So it'll be interesting to see how the 3 drivers on the mediums at the end get on. Obviously starting the hards. It'll be interesting to see how that all goes.
Yeah, obviously the mix of strategies through the field is initially seeing the medium tires having a little bit of an advantage as we go through the laps now, but that'll as we go on, that'll change to the hard tires as then the runners will go onto their new sets of tires.
I believe Vapid has made the move in XCR Senna at the back of the field. The Mercedes driver struggling a little bit for pace. Obviously, still very young and inexperienced in league racing, so looking to see how he does in another full season. Obviously, does need a little bit more time, but did struggle in qualifying with spinning. So the Mercedes driver at the back. So it's a Mercedes drivers bookending both ends of the grid.
Yeah, very much so, and I think Scott has not got the DRS this time round down the back straight, whereas Tom Gorian has got it. So can the Alpine driver close up down the straight here?
He's too far back, I think.
Yeah, just a little bit too far back actually, yeah.
You need to be, I think, half a second or less and to really have a chance with DRS. Or getting past with the DRS anyway.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, not quite close enough this time around, but yeah, it'll be, yeah, definitely a battle that we'll be keeping an eye out on.
Meanwhile as well, Shot Metal at the front is still just about keeping touch with SLR Mash. 0.6 of a second is the gap between those two, but the medium Mash doesn't seem to have quite enough really to get onto the back of Sora as of quite yet. Obviously, those hard tyres will be up to temperature now, I would think, as XCR Senna is the first one to pick up a time penalty at the back of the field. It's going to be... We'll probably be seeing quite a few more of those as we go through the race,
yeah,
which is probably going to be a lot of your deciding factor eventually.
It could potentially be, so it's going to be very important for the drivers towards the front, particularly to avoid those time penalties and yeah, stay within the track limits whilst obviously being as quick as possible.
I'm fairly sure I've also spotted that Shut Metal is underfueled, because I don't think I see that in Scott's car. Yeah, Scott is not underfueled. So Shut Metal is, I think, going to have to short shift at some point. Maybe. If he wants to save fuel, because if you look at the OSD and see the fuel light is on for the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, maybe he's expecting a safety car maybe at some point in this race to then be saving the fuel then. But yeah,
that's a risky strategy though if you do not get a safety car though.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if we do indeed get one.
Meanwhile, I think Scott has had an issue, like a small issue, and that's put him out of DRS for this lap, and that's going to allow Tom Gorian a chance to have a go at the Haas driver. But those hards maybe not fully at the right operating window quite yet for the Alpine driver. Looks like he's just about holding on as in terms of ground. As there's a wide moment from the Scott though. He's went exploring a little bit there, and that's probably going to put him on there. It looks like Shot Metal is actually having a go.
Yep.
Shot Metal's back up the inside. I saw that just happening just in front of those two, the battle we were watching, but Shot Metal's got the re-overtake done.
Yeah, indeed so, and is he going to be able to hold this position now, or is the AlphaTauri driver of MASH going to be able to possibly use some DRS to get back past?
I mean, I wouldn't expect the medium tires to be falling off quite yet, though.
Is that going to allow Tom side by side as they do go side
Yep,
to side.
I don't think Tom doesn't want to make the move here
Yeah,
though. Think about it.
He's already gone past the
Unless
line,
he's
so
done
it's gonna
it.
be Tom who's
Oh, he's
gonna
got
get the
DRS. He's
yeah.
got it. He's managed to do the wily old fox tactic. As look at Scott though. Scott is using battery though to keep himself ahead. He's going to get crowded a little bit into the red and white lines at the edge of the right hand side of the track there. Scott, is he going to try and break later round the outside with the medium compound tyres? No, he's not going to be able to do it. And Tom Gorian is ahead.
Yeah, and obviously Tom is on the hard compound tyre as well, so he is very much going to be wanting to stay in front. But yeah, obviously Scott's going to be wanting to make use of the medium compound tyres that he's got, so he's going to obviously want to be the one ahead. So this could potentially be a battle that goes on for a lot of this stint, possibly.
You see that battle going a long way, but it looks like that battling between Medal and Mash has not really helped them catch up. The gap between Medal and Sora is 5.5 seconds, or at least it's hovering about that area, and he's managing just to keep himself ahead by enough. And Sora, as I say, he's looking good at the moment. Obviously, we know how powerful the commentator's curse is, so we won't really put too much on him at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously done a good job so far, and yeah, he's probably just going to be trying to control his pace at this point. And yeah, obviously he does have a lot of pace in him, so yeah, he's obviously done a good job. And yeah, the others, it's up to them to try and see if they can mount a challenge for the race win.
It's definitely going to come down to strategy here. I wonder if anyone will try to undercut on this particular undercut any
P4 here, as it's side by side between Scott and Tom once again, as Scott retakes P4.
This is going to happen a lot, and I think that's a good idea if they don't fight each other, because if these two, I know that this is going to take points. Obviously, we know that Williams are in 7th and 8th at the moment, so it's not looking the best for them at the moment. And once again, Vapid is going to find himself behind Kirby, which is not really going to help him, considering everything that has indeed happened.
Yeah, I believe the two Williams cars did a bit of a swap going down the back straight and into the left hand corner there. So yeah, obviously the team leader getting the help from his teammate.
As you would expect, I believe Sofresh is quite a while down the championship order in terms of his position, so probably told by the team principal at Williams to move aside and let the faster driver go. Probably full Rob Smedley style. If you remember that one from 2010
very
Germany.
much so, yeah. That's...
Oh, Senna's out!
Yeah, I think that's in the pit lane though.
That's in pit lane.
I don't think we're going to see a safety car at all here, so...
I don't know why he's retired though. I feel he should even get points.
Yeah, he would, but yeah, obviously.
Well, he's not going to get any now, so.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and yeah, hopefully he can bounce back next time out.
Yeah, next time out, yeah. Unfortunate there for XR Senna, but the race does indeed go on. 1 DNS, so we're down to 8 drivers left in this Grand Prix. Mash down the inside, potentially. He was thinking about a move there, but he just didn't quite have enough of his nose poked in there really to think about a move.
Yeah, he's obviously on the softer of the two compounds that each driver's got on, so he's obviously gonna want to be the driver that's ahead in this battle. But yeah, and it's obviously gonna remain to see whether he does indeed get that opportunity to make a move.
I'm looking at the exits, like I'm on board from the rear camera of Shut Medal, and I'm looking at the exits he's getting, and I think that dirt air is having an effect on the AlphaTauri driver, because he's struggling for acceleration coming out of the reverse turkey turn 8.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously the dirt air will have a bit of an effect on the driver behind, so obviously he's not going to be wanting to be in that dirty air, and it's obviously preferable to be in clean air.
I mean, the longer you sit in the dirty air, the more front end you lose, the more front end grip you lose, and the more the front tire wear you're actually going to get from sitting in the dirty air of another car.
Yeah, that's very much the case. And particularly if you're not one of the best drivers at looking after tires, that could potentially come back to bite as well later on in the race. So yeah, it looks like we may um, see some drivers closing up. I don't know if it's going to be side by side this time around. Um, yeah, not quite
Obviously, Lamash
this
does
lap.
not get close. Nope, not close enough. But obviously, Tom Gorin, it's a waiting game really for him because he knows he's going to be on the quicker tires
Oh,
at the
there's contact.
end.
Oh,
Oh my word, that was a bit of a. I'm not sure. I think he's let him go back through because of what. There's more contact there.
yeah.
Between the two of them, there's a little bit of rough and tumble there from the Alpine driver. I wonder if he's picked up some damage from that potentially, because
Maybe.
it wasn't that much of a hit, but it looked like that he's getting a little bit impatient behind the Haas driver now, and maybe he's thinking, right, I want to get this over and done with, but Scott's probably not going to be best pleased with that.
No, I don't think either of them's going to be very pleased with each other there. And yeah,
Oh, this
there's
once
more.
again. Come on, lads, just keep it clean. Keep it clean. Not anything stupid. Especially thinking about Tom Gorin, you've got a constructors championship to potentially go after here. It's like a match. That's a time penalty up front. That's the first one up front there.
Yeah, that could potentially be pretty big in terms of the podium positions as well.
I thought Slamash was thinking about going side by side into that straight, but he did not manage to do it. But he is closer.
Yeah, I think
Shut Meadows having to use a little bit more of the battery here, but that Alpha Tauri is very close. He's going defensive to the inside, but I don't think it's going to matter a jot there as he's up the inside, and that is literally the move done and dusted.
yeah, and there's a bit of weaving from Scott heading down the straight.
I think that Scott is a little annoyed about the actions from Tom, as the
Maybe.
fact that I believe that's lost them some time to that battle in front.
So yeah, obviously there's it's not the best when you make contact with another driver, and yeah, obviously it can turn into drivers not being that best pleased with each other as well.
Especially for Tom. I mean, Tom doesn't have to be as aggressive as he needs to be because he doesn't. He's on the slower tires. He just has to take it sort of easier for the time being, knowing the fact that Scott is going to have to come into the pits first.
Yeah, I think Tom's gonna have in mind as well that he's got a couple of drivers up ahead, but not too far ahead as well, that he will probably feel that he can catch up to as well. So that's probably gonna be where the frustration on his part could potentially be. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how long this may go on for.
We are indeed coming into the point where potentially people could undercut really here.
Yeah,
Obviously
we're
going maybe a lap earlier on, say for the medium compound tires, or the hard compound tires for most of these drivers here. But it's going to be interesting to see who indeed does anyone go for it. You think?
Yeah, we're sort of getting to that sort of time where it's potentially the time where drivers are going to be coming into the pits. So yeah, we're going to be most likely seeing some of the drivers doing that. Oh, another
Oh!
contact.
Oh my word, Tom. That was a little too ambitious there from you, I would say. That was a bit too ambitious. It's cost you time as well.
Yeah, they're costing each other time really. At this
Scott
point,
did
so.
briefly gain
And
there,
Scott now
but
pits.
oh, Scott. Yep, Scott's going for the undercut.
Yeah,
I
so
believe Kirby's also into the pits as well, and Vapid's
yeah.
in as well. So those guys going for an undercut on there. SLR Mash, I believe, is going to be one of the few still out on the medium compound tires, and I wonder how powerful the undercut or overcut is going to be here.
Yeah, that is going to remain to see which of the two is gonna come to be the better one. But yeah, we've now got more drivers in clean air as well to try and go push as hard as they can.
Shot middle, meanwhile, still looking at the back of SLR Mash. Obviously, the overtake made a couple of laps ago. He's still red on fuel, so he needs to save fuel at some point in this race. We don't know how much under or over on fuel he actually is, so this could be a little bit of it. The light is on for him to come into the pit stop from the looks of it.
Yeah, that is
So
true.
I wonder if he has indicated to actually box. I mean, that's an interesting try to consider. He's on the hard compound tyres, but Sora, meanwhile, up front, he's 11 seconds clear of these two.
Yeah, he's very much in control at this moment. Yeah, he'll be just trying to stay at max concentration as he probably knows pretty well that just one lapse of concentration can throw all your good work away. So yeah, as Mash now pits.
I was expecting him to come in. I would also expect So Fresh to pit as well. Unless there is some team orders at Williams for those two for him to actually stay out and try and hold up some drivers. But
though. Oh, and he's out. Oh no.
Is that going to be a safety car?
Wall entrance.
Is that going to be a safety car? Or are we not going to have that? No, it doesn't look like it.
It's sort of off the pit entrance track, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's not good for Williams in terms of points, so that means they've only got one driver left in this Grand Prix, and that's Vapid. So this is all on Vapid shoulders versus the two Alpines at the moment.
Yeah, he just
and I think the two Alpines.
Yeah, he just approached it with too much speed, and yeah, I'm surprised that's not brought out a safety car, really.
Not even a VSC either.
Yeah. And yeah, it's obviously going to be devastating for the Williams driver there as well.
Yeah, Williams, they really needed all the points they could, and well, Vapid now realising, having seen that, now has to carry the team on for the rest of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Pretty much on his shoulders.
Yeah, and he's behind both of the Alpine cars at this moment in time, but he is approaching the Alpine of Kirby. He's got the DRS, but I think he's just a little bit too far back unless he can make a massive lunge, which he sensibly doesn't do.
I mean, right. I was bored, to be honest. Sent it too hard. So you got the pit lane entry just slightly wrong, as Cal said, and it all went horribly wrong. I will look forward to seeing you back next week and seeing how you get on for what will be round number 21 of the season. But unfortunately there for you, obviously, knowing the fact of the tight battle going on, obviously see both Alpines still in the race at the moment, that's not the best look, really.
Yeah, and it's obviously
a fast lap the Grand Prix.
Yeah. And
maybe these hard tyres favouring the Williams driver a little bit more than what the mediums were.
Yeah, and I think just the freshness really, and obviously the fuel obviously getting burnt down, and the car being lighter as well, obviously is going to be helping as well. And yeah, he's going to be wanting to try and take P5 as soon as he can from his perspective.
I mean, this is important for him to hold up Vapid as long as possible here, because Kirby could do his teammate a massive favour here for when he does indeed come into the pits. Obviously his teammate up in P3 at the moment, a fair bit behind the leader, obviously, with all the battling that's been going on between himself and Scott. And obviously Scott, this is not really the most helpful for him, because Scott being right at the back of these two, and I believe the move is going to be made right here unless Kirby can send it around the outside, and he is trying to send it around the outside. He's still I thought he had a line there going to the corner. He is maybe going to be there, but nope, Kirby is not able to get hold of it, and Vapid is through.
Yeah, he very much is, and yeah, yeah, as you say, Kirby trying to do as much of a job for his teammate Tom as he possibly can. As yeah, obviously, Tom's still got a pit stop to make. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes out ahead when Tom indeed does come into the pit lane.
I mean, those guys will probably be hitting sometime around 17, 18 laps, I would assume. Or lap 17, lap 18 rather. And going onto the medium compound tyres unless some of them feel brave and go onto the softs. I mean, the softs are a bold call for anyone to really go for, but I don't know if anyone will actually go for it or not.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best choice unless you can take the hard tires uh a much longer way into the race. But yeah, I think Kirby's gonna just about have the DRS as we head to
Yeah,
the
he's
back
just
straight.
hung on. I mean, he has more ARS deployment, so I wonder if he maybe wasn't even really using it, because Vafford only has about 35%. It's going to be less than
Yeah,
that now.
he is using his ERS now, but yeah, I think he's maybe just a little bit too far back now.
I mean, the only person, as I say, Scott though, he doesn't seem to have the same pace he did on the hards as he did at the medium. So I wonder if there was maybe some damage that wasn't repaired or something that happened with that. But I don't think he was too much behind Tom. Obviously, we know that Tom is falling a little bit behind in terms of the pace of the front two. Obviously, the front two are kind of in a league of their own in terms of the pace, but I wonder if anyone will respond anytime soon.
Yeah, I think the top three at the moment are just sort of sticking to their pit stop plans at the moment, and yeah, it'll just be a case of pushing as much as they can on the worn hard tires, whereas we've got um 4 to 7th there on new hards as well. So yeah, it's a stage of the race where there's a lot of just pushing as hard as possible, really.
Indeed, I mean Kirby is still there. I mean he's hanging on to the DRS,
Yeah, he
and
is.
Vapid's not really getting away.
No, he's not. So um, can Kirby maybe get close enough to the back of the Williams
Maybe
car, and that would really help out his teammate as well.
I mean it would maybe try and force Vapid into a mistake. I mean that's pretty much I think what he's going for here is seeing how close he can actually get and see if he can force Vapid to make a mistake at any point and kind of help on that front, as there's Sora with retaking the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 37.8 on what is 16 lap old hard compound tyres at this point in the race for the Mercedes driver, and showing how durable
Oh,
those tyres are as we have a
and
yellow flag.
That's Tom.
That's Tom Gorian.
That is
He
not good for
spun
him.
going up through the final. Yep,
Yeah.
it's put him closer to Mash, and Mash is on fresh tyres, so I wonder if this is a cue for Tom to come into the pit lane.
Yeah, maybe just the tire was
yes, it
getting
is.
too much for him.
I mean, he's the first in, so I wonder if he maybe picked up some damage from that. We'll have to see in just a second if he picked up damage from that particular
'cause
moment.
Obviously, we don't know what sort of maybe floor
No damage from the looks of
that-
it.
that occurred between either Scott or Tom. So maybe one of them or both of them might be running with a bit of damage at this stage.
So Tom has come back out in last at the moment, but I know he is going to gain time from being on the fresher tyres, so this is going to be interesting to see how this shapes up for Tom, because at this point in the Grand Prix, you've got round about 11 laps left in this Grand Prix, and he's got clear air, so he doesn't have to worry about anything, but he does have Scott to get through first, and obviously we've seen these two have had some moments, have we say, so far.
Yeah, that's obviously the case, and obviously what we've seen earlier in the race as well between the two, as Sora comes into the pits from the lead as well.
But I would expect Shut Medal in as well. Slap around.
Yeah,
It's going to be crucial to see if Shut Medal comes out of SLR Mash still though, because those two are battling for a long distance as well. I mean, I can see the grooves in the tyres there. There is some grooves starting to form in the tyres of Shut Medal. It's going to be interesting to see where Mash comes out in relation to him. I think Mash is going to jump him.
Yeah, he's
only just
approaching
stopped in the box now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mash is going to jump him, but he's not going to be much in it as they come down towards the pit lane exit. I think he's just going to get the job done, and that's not really ideal for Shut Medal, because Medal really needs to get himself ahead on fresh tyres.
Yeah, obviously he's got the fresher and softer of the tyres, but yeah, he's got about 3 seconds or so to try and make up as well.
He still has that fuel light on though. I don't think he's been
Yeah.
saving. He's not been saving enough fuel still.
Yeah, and another thing to note is...
Oh, what's in our penalty for this time? Penalty for Tom from the
Yeah.
looks of it.
Yeah, another thing to note is that Medal has got Vapids within DRS behind him as well, so is that where he's going to have to try and concentrate on as well, maybe?
Well, I mean, he has more ARS deployment than what Vapid does. Vapid's only on about 20%, whereas Shut Metal's on about 60%. So he's much better on that front at the moment, and obviously once those tires are up to temperature, he will probably pull away from the Williams driver, I would think. But it could be interesting to see if he does have to short shift at some point. Now I'm looking at some of his gears, and he is doing a little bit of short shifting work here or there.
Yeah, he is, so... Yeah, it could be a case of...
Oh, I think he's almost got his fuel back, because the light is flashing on and off now. He's almost got it back. Obviously that pit lane time has obviously helped him out a little bit, but it's a risky choice though when you decide to go for that. So obviously, as I mentioned earlier on, is you...
Yeah, because obviously he'll be obviously losing time trying to save that fuel as well, and where there is an advantage to running less fuel at the start and through the race, it's obviously a disadvantage to have to save the fuel.
Well, Tom Goring sets fastest lap of the Grand Prix at the back of the field, obviously having spun, does have a 3-second time penalty now to concede with as well. So from Alpine, having probably having a real good position here, they've now got Vapid, who's now managed to get himself back up to P4 and holding a good position, and Kirby's now the leading Alpine driver.
Yeah,
who's now picked up a time penalty himself.
It was looking pretty good for Alpine at one point in this race, but now that's sort of flipped around, and now it's Williams who've got the car ahead of the Alpine cars.
Indeed, Isla Marshall, obviously that 19 seconds the gap between himself and Sora. That Sora has just been in a league of his own this weekend once again. I mean, so this is. He seems to have a massive pace advantage on everyone else. Sora reclaims the fastest lap on his medium compound tyres.
Yeah, it's almost at the time gap where he'd probably be able to pit for softs if he wanted to as well. So yeah, he's just
come back out just ahead and then carry on. Obviously, we know that Mash for that 3-second penalty is going to drop him behind Shut Metal. I think that's also going to drop him behind Vapid at the moment. So that's even worse news really for Alpine, because that's going to put the Williams driver back on the podium.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously Vapid's not got that much more time to close up before that will become the case as well. So yeah, it has been a pretty good sort of recovery from Vapid from obviously the not very good qualifying.
Well, the crash in qualifying, really.
Yeah.
The Shut Metal, meanwhile, is trying to get past Mash. I mean, he's got his fuel under control now. He can actually go back into attack mode and try and get himself ahead again. So he's managed to do, I think he must have only been maybe like half a lap under or something of that nature. He's now using the battery and the fuel now to try and get himself as close as possible, maybe wanting his car to be as light as possible. It's our Mash 7-lap old tires compared to 2-lap old mediums. This very much, obviously, I think Mash is on the freshest of the hard compound tire runners, but I don't think he's going to have really much to say here against Shut Metal on the mediums.
Yeah, that is very much the case, and another worry that Alpine have now got on their hands is that Scott is now pretty much right behind the back of Kirby as well. So that could also be another worry for them as well in this race.
Indeed, as Mash is going to have to go defensive here, but it's going to do nothing for him, and Shut Metal has popped himself into P2, and that will look effortless for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, very much so, and yeah, Scott having a little bit of a look into the first corner, but yeah, he's just a bit too far back at this moment in time, but he's going to be trying to set up for the move, potentially on the next DRS zone.
Indeed, and the thing is, Scott doesn't really actually have to make the move, because as when it popped up a few laps ago, Kirby did pick up a time penalty, so both the Alpines having issues with track limits around here, so that's not ideal for them really on that front.
Yeah, it's obviously never good to get the penalties, as that can obviously lose you a lot of places and can get you from.
Kirby is trying desperately to shake the slipstream, going onto the marbles, I believe, on the dirty side of the track on the left hand side. Scott, is he going to try and send it down the inside? He thought about it. This is all helping his teammate catch up, but they are a long way back from the actual leaders. Yep, 31 seconds back. And I believe they're about 3 seconds off of Vapid now as well.
Yeah, that is very much the case, and yeah, I think it's just going to be just trying to defend as much as possible for Kirby, and that's obviously going to be costing him time as well. So yeah, not ideal. It's not been an ideal race here for Alpine.
Not really in the latter half. I mean, it's kind of fell apart a little bit, because now, with the fact that now Vapid is in the back of Max now as well, he's about 1.7 seconds back, and he doesn't. And as well, as long as he doesn't get any time penalties himself here, he should be all good really in terms of surviving that, and actually getting ahead and onto the podium. I mean, really an unthinkable thing considering the Williams driver in qualifying. I mean, he's kind of shown his maturity a little bit in going obviously for the championship this year. I believe I don't know if he could potentially seal it this weekend or not, because I believe it is mostly done, even though we have another 3 rounds or so left to go. As he indeed going defensive once again. Scott, he's forced to go all the way across. He's trying to break the slipstream as much as possible. Scott is now using all the battery involved. This is going to be a send from Scott down the inside, I believe, from the Haas. That is a long way back. That is a big send. That's a lick a stamp and send it sort of send. Daniel Ricciardo still around the outside. The Alpine driver is going to hold on to the position at the moment. Is he going to try and get past into the next corner? He's going to send it once again into the next corner, and it's going to be side by side once again. The Alpine is going to have to hang on. He's not going to be able to do it though, as he's the same lap of tyres, but Scott has the better traction.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah, just a very good side-by-side battle there. But yeah, it is Scott who ends up coming out best from it, really.
And it doesn't look, he's trying, as I say, Kirby's trying to have a go back at him, but once these two though, that has used up a lot of the battery for those two. In those two battling, now Tom Gorian is catching up and could be in a position to take both of them in terms of position if he can pull away even with that penalty.
Yeah, he's obviously got the medium tyres compared to the other two on the hards. But yeah, oh, that's a mistake from Tom, and he's round.
That's Tom! Yeah, he's round again. The same place I think he lost it before. That's not ideal there for Tom. The second time I believe he's lost it. Unfortunately, that one was caught on camera.
Yeah, that'll be very, very frustrating indeed for Tom. As Kirby is closing up to the back of Scott here now, so is he going to be able to try and make a move up the inside possibly?
Potentially if he can get himself close enough, but obviously no teammate now behind, and I think Tom Gorian, I think his only real course of action potentially may well be to go for fastest lap and take that away from Sora, and try and take at least a few more points back for the Alpine team.
Yeah, it's also been quite a frustrating race for Alpine here, and yeah.
I'd say a frustrating second half. The first half looked good for them,
yeah,
it's the second half that's kind of fell away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just sort of not really gone to plan for them in the second half, yeah, as you say.
Also now, that's now left Kirby with almost no ERS left, and I'm not sure if he's going to really be able to recover that much. Scott though is going to have to go defensive here potentially, but it does look like he's got just enough, and now Scott's looking like he's just saving a little bit of battery here if he does actually need to use it. Meanwhile, the battle for second place is still going on, well, provisionally on track anyway. Shut middle. He's not managed to shake the AlphaTauri driver though. He's still there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anything does happen from here on. But yeah, obviously the penalty for the AlphaTauri of Mars not helping in his case really, and yeah, he's obviously got Vapid not too far behind as well.
1.7 seconds, the interval gap between the Alpine driver, the AlphaTauri driver and the Williams driver. Almost got through an entire stream without saying the car's name was wrong. Not quite. They're still close, but nothing really happening there. Once again, we're going to go back to Kirby and Scott. Once again, Kirby trying to get as close as possible, but nothing happening once again.
Yeah, obviously having a look, but yeah, he's just too far back really at that point in the track to make a move.
Indeed, and as I say, you can make moves in certain other parts of the track, but you have to really trust that the person you're battling with side by side is going to leave you the space that is going to be required to make that work.
Yeah, of course that is obviously the case, and yeah, sort of different drivers are gonna leave sort of different amounts of space, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a case of whether you sort of know the driver you're racing as well.
As I say, Kirby at the moment, he's not been able to get. Once Scott got past him, it looks like Scott has managed to get the better of the Alpine driver of Kirby in this particular situation, and he looks like he's pulling away ever so slightly.
Yeah, he is pulling away slightly, as you say.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Still close. I mean, this could all be interesting as well. If Scott doesn't get a penalty in this situation as well, we don't really have any ideas at this point on how many penalties he does actually have, or any warnings Scott potentially may well have. I mean, at this point, he's also trying to do the same thing that Kirby was doing before, which was breaking the slipstream and then going back to racing line if he knows he's safe, and knowing the fact that Kirby's not going to be overtaken. Kirby doesn't seem at the same pace as what he was when he was ahead.
Yeah, he's just maybe he's pretty much out of ERS at this point, so that's probably not helping him get as close to the back of the Haas of Scott as he'd want to get. So yeah, he's maybe got to see if he can maybe save a little bit of it, or at least stay within the DRS here.
Indeed, meanwhile, we've gone back to the battle for second place at the moment. The gap between Shut Metal and Sora is now over 30 seconds, almost 31 seconds. It is indeed now over 31 seconds. Sora is just running away with this race with 3 laps left to go, and no one, and I mean no one, has had answers for Sora this weekend.
Yeah, he's pretty much had a dominant race here, really. Obviously with the huge time gap out in front, and yeah, just nobody else has been able to as you say get anywhere close to him.
However, these two battling is still keeping Vapid just in touch of where he needs to be.
Yeah, that's true. He just needs to. He's got about a second in hand for Vapid, so he can afford to just sort of sit where he is, really.
I mean, Vapid's kind of in no man's land at the moment, because he's not going to be. He's going to probably get a position from the AlphaTauri driver in front at the end of this race, but he's not under pressure from Scott behind.
Yeah, he's got quite a sizable sort of margin behind as well, so he's not under pressure from behind at this moment in time as well. So yeah, he's as you say, in a sort of no man's land, really.
He doesn't really have to do anything though. He can really just sit behind in the DRS and just not have to worry about really have to attack at all, and that's kind of probably relaxing, knowing the fact that you let the car in front do all the work, really.
Yeah, I think Tom's into the pits, and
that must be for
gonna try
softs.
her fastest lap here.
I do think that would probably be for softs, because there's no way you'd be pitting for anything else that late.
Yeah.
Nothing else really to lose for Tom Gorian at this point. Yep, it's soft compound tyres. He just needs to make sure he will be able to get his lap in. This is going to be an interesting one. See how this indeed will play out. Obviously, we know that this very much being a tactical play from Alpine to get a few more points over Williams,
Kirby's
but Williams,
quite
as I
close
say, are going
behind Scott here.
Yep, is he going to go for it down
yeah.
the inside? No, that's probably a wise decision from Kirby not to go for it there, but that's the warning shot for Scott saying, yep, I am still here.
Side by side
He's
for
going to start
P2
using
as
the
well.
battery as well. Yep, I just missed that, of course.
Yeah, Mash takes
and
P2
he's back
for
in at
now.
P2. That's very much going to play into Vapid's hands once again.
Yeah, but yeah, if Vapid can possibly make a move on Meadow,
That's
that
a
could
move
give
down
him
the
P2.
inside. What's happened to Scott? That's a great move from Kirby. Kirby's just managed to exploit a huge amount of space there between the two of them. And I wonder if there's some games now between Haas and Alpine to try and get themselves away. It looks like that Scott may well try and go for fastest lap himself here and try and potentially, no, I don't think he would now, not at this point. I'm curious as to what that was about though.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch there what happened between Kirby and Scott, but yeah, obviously Kirby has taken P5 on track, but obviously there's that penalty as well, so maybe that's going to come into play as well.
Yep, Vapid only 1.1 seconds behind this as well. You could actually get himself into DRS here for this final lap.
He could maybe, yeah. And I think...
Well, he's about to if he can find... Yeah, he's managed to get himself in.
Yeah.
Snuck in just, but he's managed to get it.
Yeah, if Vapid can indeed overtake Shot Metal, then that's going to be giving him P2 in the race.
Yep, that will give him P2. That is another thing that Alpine do not want to see. However, I'm going to have to go back to the front of the field and we'll have to see this battle plays out in just a second because Sora,
and it is
a very dominant
P2.
victory. Yep, we'll see that. Obviously, we'll go back to that now and see if that does. I think Shot Metal's got the place back, and now look at Vapid. Vapid's looking like he wants to make the move. He's been he's getting a little bit more racy himself.
Well.
Yep, this is everything happening. All the battles kind of all happening at once there, where I really couldn't keep tabs on absolutely everything that was going on there. But it looks like it's going to be Shot Metal is going to claim P2, and then it's going to be on track. It's going to be Mash gets his first podium. However, he's probably going to lose it immediately to Vapid, obviously with that penalty, which may well cost him potentially with penalty removals later on. He may well get it back, but on track, it's going to be Metal is going to finish P2, but it's going to be Vapid who's going to get P3 on track.
Yeah, very much a good recovery drive there from Vapids to get onto the podium again in this season.
I think that's driver of the day worthy right there.
And
potentially we'd go with him potentially for driver of the day. Obviously, considering he had to work his way through, it wasn't easy for Vapid. So I think he's going to get driver of the day for. There obviously.
Now the final question here is Tom going to get fastest lap as he crosses the line?
I probably think he did, but we didn't see.
Yeah.
It was nearly a second up, and obviously disappointment for Tom after spinning a couple of times earlier on in the Grand Prix. Vapid didn't indeed get driver of the day, and we're gonna. I would say we're gonna agree with driver of the day from the game. But your winner, once again, as I've said a few times this season, TMS Sora. Can anyone match him? Because the man is a machine. He literally, he's had some moments of vulnerability, but he has recently picked his game up in the consistency department, and he's really helped himself to what is, I think, one of his most dominant victories this season.
Yeah, I'm just looking at sort of the fastest lap times. Tom was less than a tenth of a second away from getting it, so he's just missed out there.
That's the pace of Sora right there. But Sora is your race winner, 37 seconds clear of Shot Metal, who finishes in P2 with Vapid taking the final spot on the podium. SLR Mash in his debut obviously would have got a podium out of that race had he not had the same penalty, which drops him to P4. Scott finishes P5 with Kirby in P6. The final runner to finish the race was Tom Gorian, so the two Alpines, not the best result for them on a day when they really needed some good points. And then the two DNFs were Sotfresh and XCR Senna. I mean, that was a lot more interesting of a race than I really thought we were probably actually going to maybe get, considering the amount of cars we really had on track.
Yeah, and we got plenty of side by side action, and yeah, it turned out to be a decent race for us.
Okay. I believe. There we go. Discord app up. Have a look at the upcoming round. Obviously, so up next, this could be it. I believe we have Baku up next. Oh, this is a very different race to this one. That's going to be interesting to really see how the drivers approach that, because I believe Baku, the one of the longest straights in the F1 calendar.
Yeah, that's very much the case, and yeah, we will be looking forwards to that race next week.
Indeed, so we will see you from Azadlik Square in Baku. Obviously, has one of the most feared corners on the track, and one of the most famous sayings, if anyone does been it there, it probably will be said. We will see you for round number 21, which will take us to the Baku Grand Prix for RFL. But until then, it has been me and Cal. If you want to say any final words before we round off the stream.
Yeah, it's been a decent race for us, and yeah, hope that everyone can join next time out at Baku.
Until next time, we will see you next Saturday at 9 PM. Good night.